basically influenced by my religious childhood. I was raised Catholic. I am not a practicing Catholic right now, but I think growing up with those images around my mother's house, I think they had a big influence in my work. And some of the things that I collect, the kitschiest things you find in thrift stores and places like that, or even outside of religious temples in Mexico, are these kind of gaudy religious images. They're sometimes Catholic imagery tends to be really over dramatic and I don't know, they want to be overly melodramatic and emotional, and so I'm drawn to things like that. I don't want to create like new versions of saintly pictures. I think I find images from the print media or from television or historical humanitarian figures, and I use them as my subjects. And initially I started the series using fashion models. I did a couple, a female and a male, and they were kind of I wanted it to be almost like metaphors too. What would be a Jesus and what would be a Mary portrait.
Oh, okay.
But I found
so kind of like a modern versus the traditional.
Yeah, like a modern version of the duo.
Oh, okay.
And I found these wonderful models in a fashion magazine, and I wanted them to be what society tells us is ideal beauty in the male and the female. They are kind of these icons, you know. Some people might see religious overtones in them, like they will see the female being the Virgin Mary or something like that. But I really was trying to push the idea of beauty, idealized beauty in our society is this figure, female and this male, but at the same time, they kind of speak a little to perhaps some of the imagery that I saw growing up Catholic. I was in school. I took this class with this professor by the name of Patrick Victorier, and he taught me a very academic traditional painting technique, and I loved it. It's one of those techniques that's very it really focuses your eyes to pay attention to subtlety and detail and things and form. But at the same time, I didn't want to be stuck with doing something that's very traditional, you know, that kind of spoke to the past. So I wanted to do something that was kind of pushing the envelope a little bit, or kind of contrasting something that's very academic, which the portraits are. And so again, looking to the images that I've seen as growing up in the Catholic family, were the ideas of the thorns and the hearts and things like that. But then also being influenced by folk art. Specifically Mexican folk art and Haitian folk art. Some of the Haitian, the Boudin flags, they take these religious images of St. James or Mary or whatever, and around the image they start sewing all these sequins and beads, so it adds this decorative element to the images, and they become art objects basically. So it's definitely influenced by the Haitian folk art in that respect, of finding you know, again, kitschy elements of decoration like plastic, glass rhinestones, plastic or glass rhinestones and beads and things like that to collage onto the surface to kind of counteract the serious academic nature of the portraiture.
Oh, okay.
So there's a nice balance, nice contrast to the realistic part with the decorative elements, with, you know, bright color of folk art, you know, kind of. Well, when I started college in 1990, and the work I was doing then was mostly abstraction. You know, it's still based on some principles based in nature of light and shadow and form, rendering form that was three-dimensional, things like that. So forms that had illusion and dimension to them, but still very abstract. And then once I graduated with my master's degree in 2002, I wanted to go in a different direction and take what I learned from this academic class, painting technique, and I wanted pursue that, but in a different way, and I started working on a series of iconic images, and somehow balancing the traditional academic style. Fashion models, which I really had nothing. I really didn't know anything about these people other than they looked fabulous and they had beautiful and all that. And then I did one of the singer Nina Simone.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then I did, after that, once I knew more about the person that I was depicting, I did one of Maria Sabina, this shaman from Mexico. She passed away in the 80s, but she's really famous because she performed these rituals in which she ingested mushrooms, hallucinatory mushrooms.
Oh.
Yeah, so she was world famous. So in the 60s, everybody descended to Mexico to find these mushrooms. But not just because of that, because she had so much wisdom. She knew all the traditions of her ancestors and what, plants to gather to help people heal and all this stuff. And she became this kind of a symbol of the youth, actually, in Mexico. And she's just the neatest character. This old woman, and she has her crown made out of plant forms, and she has two hummingbirds side by side. And from there, then I started finding other people. Like I did a painting of Chico Mendes. Chico Mendes, famous activist to save the rainforest, and eventually was killed, assassinated by somebody that didn't want that, of course. His livelihood really depended on tapping rubber trees for rubber, and once you clear out the rainforest, then you don't have any more. His livelihood is basically gone. And then I found another interesting figure, Maria Elena Moyano, another activist from Peru, helping poor people in her village outside of Lima, Peru. And so I started finding these figures that had all this depth behind them, and they really, they become almost like martyrs, And so thinking of, again, the religious undertones of the work and what it really is to be saintly. These people gave up a lot, gave up their life to help others and things like that. Then I did Mukhtar Mai, the Pakistani woman that was gang raped in her village in Pakistan, and she became kind of like this really a beacon of hope for other oppressed women in Muslim communities. When something like that usually happens to you, usually brings a lot of shame. You either kill yourself or have to leave the family somehow. Because even though she didn't do anything, she was the victim. So I wanted to do a painting to kind of pay homage to her plight. But I'm doing these other heavy subjects, and I wanted to do some fun ones also. Maybe come back. I'm working on another 24 by 24 painting. It's going to have a little bit more relief, like the piece that's here, where I'm going to be adding a little bit more of sheets of masonite on top of the panel. So it'll start building up the surface a little bit more.
Oh, wow.
Kind of like the one that's here, but maybe a little bit more. And then after that, I want to do something that's a little bit more life-size, bigger.
Full body?
Yeah, including perhaps hands and then maybe feet. So it'll be tall, kind of slender panels.
Great.
The same style.